Hey guys, it's Shay from Polygon Motion and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to talk about how to create a very nice callout title in After Effects using shape tools and using built-in tools of After Effects. Maybe you've seen callout titles in a lots of videos, like introducing something or talking about a specific of something. You can use callout in different places and in different scenes of your motion graphic project, and creating them are actually very easy. Most beginner After Effects user can design them, but the cool thing about this is how to make them regular. But in this tutorial, I'm going to talk about how to just create them very professionally, and by professionally I mean that you can just adjust it, or we're going to create a callout that is flexible and we can adjust it. For example, adjust the starting point, adjust the end point, and all of these things. And this callout is an image callout like this. We're going to create this kind of callout. If I just do a quick ramp preview in here for you guys, you see that we have a dot in here. You just coming out from here, and a line, and you see a bunch of other lines, and an image placeholder that we have some fix. And if I change, the cool thing about that is if I change these null object, you see that it's just changeable, and you can just create a short callout, or you can create a long, or in whatever angle you want. And you can also adjust this one. You see that it's just adjustable very nicely, and all of the animations are just automatically set up, and it doesn't affect on our animation. So without further ado, let's create a new composition. And my composition is full HD, and I want to go for maybe 4 seconds. And I just forgot to name this composition setting callout. And let's close this. And the first thing that I'm going to create is our pint and lines. So for pints, I'm going to use shape layers in here. Just drag a very small circle in here and just change the anchor point. And for this, I don't want to have a fill. I just want to have a stroke. And in a stroke, just change the stroke width. And you would have this kind of shape in here. And just duplicate this and go to transform and scale it down. Not too much, like this. And just delete the stroke. Now we need fill, and just fill it with a very nice color like white, and just scale it down a little bit. I think it's good, and put them into one group, and change the anchor point of the wall group to the center. You can use alignment tools in here as well, but I just do it manually. Eyeball it and just scale it down a little bit, and I think it's good, but we need a tiny dot. Yes, now it is good. So now we have our dot. Let's create the animation of this circle as well, so that we can just start working on other side of the project. For animation, I'm using a scale in here, a scale of the wall group in here, and just create a keyframe and put this keyframe farther in the timeline, and also in here just put this into zero. And when I play this, you have a reverse animation, and just select all of them and make them change them to easy ease. to have a smooth animation. And what I'm going to do in here is to have a very smooth and elastic animation. I'm just selecting them and go to curve editor, and then here use edit speed graph, and just change the starting point. And what does it mean? It means that it just have a very fast starting point and just going slow down, and it's very interesting, very nice. So the other thing that we are going to talk about is how to create rope or a line. We can just do it by shape, but the problem with shape, if I create, for example, like this line in here, and just disable the fill and add a stroke in here, you see that we just created lines. Most of the beginners are just going for this type of things. It just worked very well, very fine. But the problem is, as you saw on the main composition that I've shown you guys, is that we can't adjust that when we are going to create the rope or the line using shapes. The flexibility of this callout that we're going to create is its adjustability, its flexibility, that you can change that. So for this, I'm going to use an effect called beam. If I create a new solid, because beams are working just on solid, and if I call this rope, and let's rename this our dot, and in rope, in our solid, just go to effects and presets. So now apply beam, type beam, and just drag it on your solid, and now you have this kind of things. The first thing I'm going to do is change the length to 100, and also change the colors, both colors, to white, and softness to the 0, because we don't need softness. And you see that we have a starting point and ending point. For example, if I change the starting point, you see that I can control one point, and the ending point is this point. And actually, we need to connect these points to a null object for flexibility. We can, for example, we can animate these points, and it's flexible as well. But the main thing is to connect that to just connect these 2 points with separated null object, a null object for ending point and a null object for starting point. How can we do that? It's very simple. So just create a new null object and call this a starting point, and duplicate that, call this ending point. And what I'm trying to do in here is just go to the rope, and also to go select these ending point and starting points, and press P on the keyboard to toggle down the position properties, and go to the rope, effect, beam, and in the starting point, just hold Alt and click on the starting point, and you don't need to write an expression. You have to choose pick whip tool and just connect that to the position of the null object. Now just watch this. Now you see that our starting point is in here. Now we can control that. Now we can do the same thing for the ending point. Just hold Alt and by using pick whip tool, I'm just connecting that to the position of ending points. Now both of them are connected, and I can simply just put them in here, or just whatever thing that I want to do with these points. So now if I put this in here, into the center of this dot, and this one here, and the other thing that I want to do in here is just thickness of that just put 2, yeah, nice. We don't need a very thick line in here. So now all the things are set up. We just created a rope as well, but the main thing is how can we animate that? We can use lint in here for animating, but as you can see, it's just animating in the wrong direction. We don't need this kind of animation. Our animation should be starting in this spine and end in this spine. And for this, you don't need to do any other things. We can use an effect called wipe. If I type wipe in here and just toggle down and choose linear wipe, drag it to the rope in here, and now we can create wiping transition. But as you can see, it's not working. Why? Because it is in a wrong wipe angle. So for this, let me go for 180, and you see that. Now if I change the transition completion, you see that we can have that. And the cool thing is that we can animate that. So let's animate this and put this into 100 and just create a keyframe in here and go further into time and just change, put this to the 0. Put this to 0, and now we have a cool, if I play this, we have a cool wipe in here. And it's very cool, as you can see, very smooth. And if I go to just select group and press U on the keyboard to toggle down our keyframes and select your keyframes, keyframe Aston and easy ease. So now we have created our dots, dot, and rope is created. The other thing is that we have to create our frame in here. For frame, we have to just create a rectangle in here, this kind of rectangle, and just put it in here and maybe a little bit small. Nice. And call this frame lines. And what I'm going to do in here is just add a trim pad in here for this and animate that. So just put the start to 100 and create a keyframe in here and go further in time and just put this into the 0. And now if I play this, you see that we have a very, not just nice, but we just make that nice as well in here. Just change them to easy ease. You see that, and select them, go to curve editor, and in edit speed value, just give them a little bit strong starting point. You see that, very nice. And what I'm going to do in here is just duplicate this and go to transform and scale it down a little bit. And for this, we can create an out animation as well. We don't want this to be stacked in here, just helping animation here for just look a little bit complex, not too simple. Easy ease, and you see that it's very, very nice. We don't need to adjust it on curve editor like this, and very cool. So our frame is created, and put this underneath of dot, underneath of rope. And what I'm going to do in here is just create our image placeholder. So for image placeholder, what I'm going to do in here is just drag a rectangle like this and disable stroke and add a fill. Very cool. And just pre-comp this, call this image, and go to image composition and just crop the edge of this composition to create the composition as same size as our shape layer here. And go to composition and crop comp to region of interest. And now we have a composition that matches our shape layer size. And what I'm going to do in here is create another plate in here for this, and just change its color and drag a fixed, for example, Polygon motion, and put text in here. And what I'm going to do in here to give the text flexibility, maybe you want to change the text or anything else, but we want to keep the animation of the text stable, and we don't want to put any we don't want that we don't want to let's pre-comp this text layer and call this text and go to this composition. And what I'm going to do in here, just crop the composition. And why I'm just pre-comp this text, we don't need to, maybe you ask me why we have to pre-comp the text layer. Why? Because we want to give this callout too much flexibility. For example, maybe you need to change the text in future project. You don't need to just, if I create animation here for our text, you have to just delete the animation keyframes and start again and change, and too much works most of the time. But it's very good to have a specific pre-comp, a specific composition for a text. Now what I'm going to do in here is just add an opacity animation and change this to 0 and range selector. And what I'm going to do in here is animate this start one, and you see that it just wrong and just goes wrong, and we're just fixing that and select these keyframes and time reverse keyframes. Now it is cool, and change this to easy ease. Now we have a very nice animation here, and put this in here. Very cool. And if I go to callout, now you see that we have a nice frame in here. What I'm going to do in here is just create a mask and scale down this mask a little bit. Very nice, and scale it down to match it and put it inside of this frame. And maybe just use mask to adjust it perfectly. Very nice, and we have that. So now let's animate our image. And for animation, I'm using the mask expansion. Just create an animation for mask expansion like this. And what I'm going to do in here is just create a keyframe and go further in the time and make this a little bit to just goes off, and you see that. Select them, easy ease. Very nice. And now, as you can see, we have just created that, and the one thing that I'm going to do is just select your image and parent that to our starting point here. And now just frame line, do it for frame line as well, and for dot as well. If I change that, you see starting point, you see that is now completely connected with each other. And for dot, I'm just parent this to ending point, and now if I change this, you see that without affecting to the actual animation of this. Very nicely, we have just create our callout, and you can put this in here, put this point in here, and like this. You can put your image in here, and image, you can delete that. If I import an image in here and photo, and just import this nice landscape image in here, and put this underneath of these layers. adjust the frame size like this and go to your callout. Now we have a very nice callout in here. So guys, we just nicely created our callout, and you can do a bunch of variation. You can give it a bunch of variation to it, and just practice to create other types of callout by yourself. For example, create a circle in here, or create plates and titles and things like that. So that was from it, and don't forget to put your comment below if you have any suggestion or any question. Feel free to reach me out, and also don't forget to subscribe if you didn't. So my name is Ushair, and see you guys next time.